The radio crackled against Hamish's hip as he walked the perimeter of Warehouse 7, steel-tall boots echoing off wet concrete. 3 a.m. meant fog rolling in from the sound, thick enough to muffle the city's heartbeat. Perfect hunting weather, his wolf whispered. Perfect for things that preferred the dark.
MacLeod.
Alpha Denuck's voice cut through static. All business despite the hour.
Need you on a special assignment.
Hamish paused beside a shipping container, one hand automatically checking the Glock at his shoulder. In 2 centuries, he'd learned that Denuck's special assignments usually required permanent solutions.
What kind of problem?
The shadowless kind.
The words hit him like ice water. Hamish had heard whispers, urban legends about soul-souled humans walking among them, marked by their missing shadows. Dangerous to supernatural folk, supposedly. Unpredictable.
Location?
Belltown. Kelly Jones, apartment 4B at the Meridian Complex. Singer, works the small venues. The next tone carried that particular edge that meant handle this quietly. She's been noticed.
Hamish's wolf stirred uneasily, hackles rising for reasons he couldn't name. In his early years, before the pack's solution, the beast had been eager for blood, especially when innocents were involved. Now, it felt different, resistant.
What's the threat assessment?
Unknown. That's why you're going. Hamish, this one's important. No mistakes.
The line went dead. Hamish stared at the radio, his wolf moving restlessly in his chest. No mistakes meant kill clean, dispose quietly, ask no questions. It meant another problem erased from the Nook's ledger. So why did his wolf feel like cowering? 20 minutes later, Hamish stood across from the Meridian Complex, studying the 4th-floor windows. One glowed faintly, someone awake at this devil's hour. The building smelled of old brick and newer gentrification, coffee shops and yoga studios replacing the honest grime of working docks. He'd tracked dozens of targets over the decades. His wolf knew the scent of fear, of guilt, of prey that needed culling. But as he approached the building's entrance, something felt wrong. His wolf wasn't hunting. It was searching, like it caught a familiar scent on the wind. Impossible. He'd never met this Kelly Jones. The lobby door yielded to his lockpicks with practiced ease. 4 flights of stairs, each step heavier than the last. By the time he reached 4B, his wolf was practically whimpering, pressing against his ribs like it wanted to retreat. Hamish pressed his ear to the door. Soft humming drifted through. A voice like smoke and honey, threading through a melody he almost recognized. Something Scottish, ancient. Something that made his chest tight with memories of heather and home. His hand froze on the door handle. Kill her, Danuke's voice echoed in his mind. The shadowless are dangerous. Protect her, his wolf whispered back. And for the first time in 50 years, Hamish MacLeod didn't know which voice to trust. The humming stopped. Footsteps approached the door.
I know you're out there, Kelly Jones said softly. Might as well come in.
The door opened before Hamish could decide whether to run or knock. Kelly Jones stood in the doorway, and his first thought was that she looked like smoke given form. Not translucent, exactly, but insubstantial, as if she might dissolve if he breathed too hard. He had never seen that in a human. She was smaller than he'd expected, maybe 5'4", with dark hair that seemed to absorb the hallway's fluorescent light. Pretty, in a way that suggested she'd been beautiful once, before whatever had stolen her shadow began stealing the rest of her too.
You're the wolf, she said. Not a question.
Hamish's hand moved instinctively toward his weapon, then stopped. His wolf was practically purring now, settling into contentment for the first time in decades.
How did you?
No? Kelly stepped back, gesturing him inside. Same way I know you're not here to hurt me. Your wolf won't let you.
The apartment was sparse but warm, filled with the kind of lived-in music that spoke of late nights and long practice sessions. A guitar leaned against the couch, sheet music scattered across a coffee table. No photographs on the walls. Hamish noticed that immediately, People without shadows rarely appeared in pictures anymore. You should be afraid, he said, not moving from the doorway.
Should I? Kelly settled into an armchair, tucking her legs beneath her. In the lamplight, she was more solid, more there. Tell me, Hamish MacLeod, when was the last time your wolf wanted to kill an innocent?
The use of his name hit him like a physical blow.
How?
I've been waiting 3 months for you. Hospital security doesn't just record video. They keep visitor logs, employee records. It took some digging, but I found out who had access to the ICU that night. Your name was on a contractor list for pest control services. Her smile was grim. Interesting euphemism. She gestured to the sheet music. When you've suddenly contracted a fatal disease no doctor understands, you research everything, including urban legends about creatures that might be connected to everything that happened.
Hamish finally stepped inside, closing the door behind him. The apartment smelled like her, something warm and musical. If music could have a scent, his wolf stretched luxuriously, more at peace than it had been since the binding ritual.
He remained standing, ready to bolt.
You mean losing your shadow?
Kelly's laugh held no humor. Is that what they told you? That I sold my soul? She stood, moving to the window. In the glass's reflection, Hamish could see himself clearly, but Kelly appeared as only the faintest outline. Look at me, Wolf. Really look.
Hamish focused, letting his supernatural senses expand. What he saw made his blood run cold. Kelly wasn't just missing her shadow. She was slowly becoming one. Her edges blurred slightly, as if reality couldn't quite keep hold of her. When she moved, it took a moment for the world to catch up.
You're becoming a whisper, he breathed.
So you know the old terms too. She turned from the window. Most of the folklore just called it fading, but I found references to whispers in some Scottish legends. Seemed fitting, given your accent. Do you know what whispers are, Hamish?
He did. From old pack lore. Beings caught between worlds, invisible and unheard, walking among humans like ghosts that couldn't cross over. It was supposed to be a punishment for those who betrayed the supernatural community.
But you're human.
Innocent, he said, confusion warring with certainty. You haven't done anything wrong.
Haven't I? Kelly moved to her guitar, fingers ghosting over the strings without quite touching them. Even so, a faint melody emerged, hauntingly beautiful. I had the audacity to be born with a voice that could call to wolves across centuries. I dared to sing old songs that remembered older lyrics.
The melody she played. It was the same Scottish tune he'd heard through the door, but now he recognized it. A calling song, the kind his grandmother might have hummed to keep her family safe during clan wars. Your voice? Hamish said slowly. It's why my wolf.
Recognizes me? Yes. Kelly's fingers pressed more firmly against the strings, and the music grew stronger, more real. Apparently, some voices are dangerous to certain people's plans.
The pieces began falling into place with sickening clarity. My pack. They did this to you.
Smart wolf. Kelly's smile was sad, but not surprised, though I don't think your alpha expected his weapon to develop a conscience.
Hamish's phone rang. The Nuk's voice filled the small apartment. Status report, MacLeod. Problem resolved?
Kelly's gaze met his, and in her fading eyes, Hamish saw something he hadn't encountered in 50 years of following orders. A choice. Not between right and wrong. Those lines had blurred long ago. But between remaining Dinuk's controlled weapon or risking everything to become what his wolf had always wanted to be. A protector. A guardian who chose his own battles.
The alternative terrified him. Without the binding, without orders to follow, he'd have to trust himself. Trust that 2 centuries of guilt had taught him the difference between necessary violence and mindless slaughter. Trust that he wouldn't become the monster who had torn apart innocent families in those early, uncontrolled years. His wolf made a soft sound, almost like a whimper.
almost like a plea.
MacLeod? Dinick's voice grew sharper. A port?
Hamish looked at Kelly, at this woman whose voice could call to ancient music, who was fading from the world because her voice disrupted his pack's control over him. He spoke into the phone.
Problem's more complicated than expected, he said finally.
Requesting permission to investigate further.
The silence on the other end stretched long enough that Hamish wondered if the nut could hear his heartbeat through the phone.
Negative. Handle it now, MacLeod. That's an order.
Kelly began to hum again, the same Scottish melody, and Hamish's wolf rose to answer with a sound that had no place in a human throat. The sound that emerged from Hamish was neither human nor fully wolf, a harmonizing howl that made Kelly's apartment windows vibrate. The moment it left him, he knew he'd crossed a line that couldn't be uncrossed.
His phone exploded with static. Then the nuke's voice, sharp with the long. MacLeod! What the hell was that? Report immediately!
Kelly's humming stopped.
In the sudden silence, Hamish could hear his own heartbeat, his wolf's contentment, and underneath it all, the whispered sound of a woman slowly disappearing from the world.
You need to know the truth, Kelly said, rising from her chair. She moved to a small desk, pulling out a manila folder that looked oddly official among her scattered music sheets. Before you decide what to do with me.
Hamish stared at the folder, his wolf whining softly. What is that?
Medical records, police reports, documentation of what they did. Kelly's voice grew stronger as she spoke, as if anger gave her substance. I wasn't born shadowless, Hamish. I was made this way.
The voice on the phone crackled again. MacLeod, if you don't respond in 60 seconds, I'm sending backup.
Answer him, Kelly said quietly. Tell him you need more time. Tell him I'm harder to kill than expected.
Hamish's hand trembled around the phone.
Why are you telling me to lie to my pack?
Because, Kelly said, opening the folder, they're not your pack anymore. They haven't been since the night they stole what was mine to save what was yours. 3 months of research taught me that shadow theft requires an anchor. Something told me you were mine, just like I'm yours. A werewolf who won't hunt isn't broken. He's tethered, and a woman without a shadow didn't necessarily sell her soul or is cursed. She's being used as a leash.
She pulled out a photograph, grainy, black and white, taken with what looked like a security camera. It showed a woman sleeping in what appeared to be a hospital bed, machines beeping around her. Above the bed, barely visible in the infrared imaging, a dark shape crouched over her prone form.
That's me, Kelly said, pointing to the woman. 3 months ago. Emergency room at Harborview. Severe pneumonia. Touch and go for days. Her finger moved to the dark shape. And that's what they sent to harvest my shadow while I was in intensive care.
Hamish's blood turned to ice. The shape in the photograph was lupine, massive, with eyes that glowed even in the black and white image. He'd seen that wolf before, in mirrors during his worst transformations.
No, he whispered.
You were in full berserker mode. Kelly continued, her voice gentle despite the horror she was revealing. Completely out of control, just like the old days. Except this time, instead of killing innocents, they gave you a different target. My shadow. Something you could tear apart without taking a life.
The phone? 30 seconds, MacLeod.
They told you it was a training exercise, Kelly said. Subduing a supernatural threat. But what you really did was rip my shadow from my unconscious body and deliver it to them. That's what stopped your berserker episodes, Hamish. Not some ritual. My shadow, wrapped around your rage like a leash.
Hamish stared at the photograph, at his own monstrous form caught in the act of theft. His wolf was keening now, a sound of pure anguish that seemed to echo Kelly's fading existence.
They made you into a weapon, Kelly said softly. And they made me into your anchor. The question is, what are you going to do about it?
The phone went silent. In the distance, Hamish could hear the sound of vehicles approaching fast.
Backup's coming, he said.
Kelly nodded, already moving toward her guitar. Then we'd better hurry.
The sound of boots on the stairwell echoed through the building. Heavy, coordinated, pack-trained. Hamish counted at least 4 sets, maybe more. Danuk hadn't sent backup. He'd sent an execution squad.
They're not coming to retrieve me, Hamish said, understanding flooding through him.
They're coming to clean up loose ends.
Kelly lifted her guitar, fingers finding the strings with practiced ease. Both of us, you mean?
Kelly, you need to run, he said.
Where? She strummed a chord that seemed to vibrate in his bones. I'm already disappearing, Hamish. By tomorrow, I'll be so faded that even you won't be able to see me. By next week, I'll be gone entirely. Her eyes met his. But right now, tonight, I still have a voice.
The footsteps reached the 4th floor. Hamish could smell them now. Pack wolves, armed and nervous. His wolf paced frantically, torn between the instinct to submit to pack hierarchy and the desperate need to protect the woman whose shadow had become his leash.
There's another way, Kelly said softly, her fingers moving across the strings in a complex pattern that made the air itself seem to thicken. But it means trusting me. Completely.
The apartment door exploded inward. 3 pack wolves in human form poured through, weapons drawn, with Danuk's massive frame filling the doorway behind them. His business suit looked strange with the gun in his hand, but his eyes held the cold calculation that had made him alpha.
Step away from her, Hamish, Enoch commanded.
Hamish didn't move. His wolf had gone silent, waiting.
She's poison.
Hadnuk continued, advancing slowly. Her voice? It's destructive. It's what drove you berserk in the first place. We had to steal her shadow to save you from yourself.
Liar.
The word came out as a growl.
Is it? Dinuk's smile was razor thin. Tell me, Hamish, when did your episode start? Right after you heard her singing at that little dive bar downtown. Her voice called to your wolf, drove it mad with need. We saved you by binding her shadow to your rage.
Kelly's guitar sang a single, pure note that cut through Danuk's words like a blade. Maybe my voice did call to you, but not to drive you mad.
Another note, higher, haunting. Hamish felt his wolf respond, rising not with violence, but with recognition.
To call you home, Kelly continued. Some voices are meant to guide lost wolves back to their pack. Real pack. Not this. She gestured at Danuk and his soldiers.
Enough. Denuk raised his weapon. Kill them both.
That's when Kelly began to sing. The sound that poured from her throat was nothing human. It was wind through heather, the cry of hawks over ancient battlefields, the voice of every Scottish woman who'd ever called her loved ones home from war. It was the song Hamish's grandmother had hummed, the melody that lived in his bones, the sound his wolf had been searching for across 2 centuries of exile. And as she sang, something impossible happened. Kelly's shadow separated from Hamish's wolf, flowing across the floor like spilled ink, reaching toward its owner with desperate hunger. The moment it touched her feet, Kelly blazed into full visibility, no longer fading, no longer whisper-bound. Hamish's rage returned, wild and unfettered, as his berserker nature broke free from its stolen leash.
The transformation began before Hamish could stop it. Bones extending, muscles rippling, his human form dissolving into something far more dangerous. He felt the familiar red haze descending, the berserker fury that had once painted Highland battlefields with innocent blood. Kelly kept singing, her voice wrapped around his rage like a river around stone, not binding it but guiding it. For the first time in 2 centuries, Hamish's wolf form settled into perfect balance, powerful but controlled, deadly but precise. Danuk's soldiers opened fire, but the wolf that had been Hamish MacLeod moved like shadow-made flesh, Kelly's song giving him impossible grace. He took them down with surgical efficiency, unconscious, not dead, wounded, not slaughtered.
When he turned to face Danuk, the Alpha was backing toward the shattered door, his business mask finally slipping to reveal naked fear.
This is what you were afraid of, Hamish said, his voice carrying both human words and wolf song.
Not my rage, my choice.
Danuk fled. In the sudden quiet, Kelly lowered her guitar, solid and real.
and beautifully, perfectly visible. Her shadow stretched behind her, dark and whole.
The empty hearts, she said softly, watching Hamish shift back to human form. They don't hunger anymore.
Hamish looked at his hands, steady, unmarked by innocent blood. His wolf lay quiet in his chest, no longer caged, but finally, truly free.
No!
He agreed, reaching for her hand. She didn't pull away when their fingers intertwined.
They don't.
So what now? Kelly asked, her voice fully her own again.
Now, we disappear.
Hamish said.
Dinuk will send others, but this time we disappear together.
Kelly smiled, the first real smile he'd seen from her. I know a few places where singers and wolves can start over.